Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the New Trends in Learning Development. It's Doug Devitre, your host. Today, we have an awesome show with Dr. Phil Hickman, the co-founder of or founder of PlaBook, which is an amazing online reading platform and also has some great math tools too. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in Dr. Phil here without further ado. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you for inviting me, Doug. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet. Well, before we get into the platform, I want to discuss your background, right? Because anytime we're talking learning and development, or we're talking about working with kids in schools, it's important to understand where people kind of come from. So, if you would please just give everybody just a little bit of background about who you are and what you're all about.
Okay, just briefly, I'm a son of a teacher. My mother was a teacher, was an educator, and so very young, I started in the classroom. But for me personally, I did everything in the field of education. I have 6 graduate degrees and a doctorate. I was a teacher, a school psychologist, special education, a counselor, assistant principal, principal, director of education, founded charter schools, co-founded charter schools, um, co-founded technology academies and boot camps, and then also I was a superintendent in some of the largest school districts in the United States, and I was a superintendent in some of the most rural school districts in the United States. And then I was a national ambassador for United States Department of Education in Canada technology area. And then I went on to do some consulting for Apple and Amazon, and did a stint at Oracle with their technology and AI. And then now I'm the founder of PlaBook, which is an innovative reading technology that uses artificial intelligence, natural language processing, and speech recognition to help children learn how to read.
Wow, that's amazing. My mom was a school teacher. She was a school teacher in Riverview Gardens.
Oh, wow.
And I kind of become a teacher, but mostly in professionals. But now working with my son here, I've kind of assumed that role here. But and as I'm
I
working
used
with
to work
him, right? I'm sorry.
I
Go
used,
ahead.
I used to work at Riverview Gardens. I was a school psychologist in St. Louis County School District. So I had
Wow, right.
Riverview, I had Ladue, I had Hazelwood, and I had Jennings. But yeah, it's just crazy how people's paths can cross.
Yeah, Tammy Devitre Leaders is her name. So I don't know. She retired probably 30 years ago, right? Well, tell me what's been the inspiration behind PlaBook, right? Because in order to launch in a space like this with technology, what got you going specifically on the reading side?
Well, there was a couple of different issues. One is I was a struggling reader as a child, so diagnosed or undiagnosed with dyslexia. I struggled to read until in 3rd grade. My grandmother taught me how to read. She later passed away on my um, 4th grade birthday. But the ability that she gave me to read kind of changed my life, and I wanted to one impact to change the trajectory of other children's lives. The other aspect is just the way technology was heading and being developed in the education sector. I thought ed tech was developed by a lot of people outside the field of education, or without know-how of how things translate within the classroom. And then reading, there's the national reading crisis, and I think that people really need to pay attention to that because I've traveled the world, and I'm telling you, we are increasingly becoming a global society or global economy, and especially through technology, and we are behind in America, especially in area reading. The research is clear: 75% of children within the 4th grade in the United States read below grade level, and that's regardless of social economical status, race, creed, everything. And so it was something that I thought, I prayed about, and I thought that this is something that I really, really wanted to impact and tackle, not only from a classroom standpoint, from a building standpoint as a principal, as a superintendent from a school district standpoint, but from a worldly standpoint. I really wanted to kind of close the gap and give everyone the equal opportunity, just like my grandmother did, to be able to learn how to read and have the academic success that I had.
Now, what that's amazing. Now, what do you think? So 75% of students at fourth grade read below grade level. It's not. It can't be access to resources, right? Because you come here to the St. Louis County Library. My son got a library card when he was 5. Right, he became self-sufficient, checking out books. The first time he was able to do it, he checked out 83 books on Minecraft when I stepped away, and then I was like, "Oh my God, what are we, what are we going to do with all?" Right, but that's how he started, and it can't be resources. So what is it?
Well, one of the things that research is finding is that children nowadays, they actually brains are wired a little bit different than ours. We know that we have kind of the first digital natives. Our children are born nowadays with iPads in their hands. I mean, you can go to restaurants and you can see infants and carriers, and they're scrolling down phones and they're manipulating their iPads and tablets, and they're choosing what to watch, what not to watch, and all of that affects a different wiring of the brain. And so the problem is one is that we try to educate kids for our past instead of their future, and so they require a different amount of engagement, and you have to present them with something different than the motivation and engagements that we have. The same things that I try to build into PlaBook. And the other thing is that education usually was geared towards 65% of children, and usually had a small percentage that wasn't successful. But nowadays it's geared obviously towards a smaller percent. Even our gifted kids are kind of our number one at risk children. They're dropping out like flies as well. So it's just a combination of presentation. It's a combination of engagement, and then also we're just now understanding the science of reading. We're going back to the kind of penicillin of reading of what we used to do, and that was really have a systematic, systemic, phonics based foundation in order to teach children how to read.
Yeah, it bothers me when we go into a restaurant and you see kids and their parents both on their phones. I don't know, when Harry and I go out to eat, I make sure that he brings a physical book with him, right? Now I might be on my phone, right? But he has to have a physical book because um, I see what's happening, right? With how much time he can potentially spend on the screen, right? And
Right.
so um, well, I'm witnessing that firsthand, and especially when you look at what he's been gravitating toward, he's gravitating to topics that he's interested in that's increasing his reading. How do you see PlaBook playing a role in creating some of the personalized learning where students can kind of choose what they want and then also improve those skills that are associated with digital literacy?
Yeah, I think we have a pretty unique artificial intelligence algorithm, and also a natural language processing system in place that we kind of look at the interests of students, we look at their strengths and weaknesses, and we start making recommendations to that student as far as their interest level. We look all the way through the platform, and really map out the students' engagement all the way through the platform, and then that fuels our recommendation engine, that kind of sends students books that again are geared towards their interests, their strengths, and therefore it's almost like the same system that when people are on social media and you don't know that you're being fed all the things that you like, which cause you to be more engaged, right? Or Netflix is recommending books or movies that you prefer because of your activity on the platform. Well, why not bring the same science to reading, the same technology to reading, to help fuel, engage children's interest in those kind of things? And so that's one of the ways that we do it. And of course, our personalized learning is second to none. We're really a lot of times when people think of personalization, they're just talking about students' interest in a sense. And so not only the interest, but we look at strength and weaknesses. So, and we are adaptive platform. So we actually increase as the student becomes more successful, as opposed to staying there and plateauing. So we're constantly nudging the student and pushing the students and challenging the students. And then we also have a algorithm in play to where we start to introduce new content, because we want to make sure we have a well-rounded student. and give them things that, hey, you like this area, but this is similar, and it may also grasp your attention, and then it's proven to be successful.
Well, let's put yourself back in the role of the teacher inside the classroom, right? You know, and you have maybe a handful of books that you might select, right? And then you might read out loud or do a read along, and then uh, then you have this platform now that gives recommendations and it's personalized. How can teachers kind of bridge this gap to where now they can also be associated with giving the personalized recommendations and not have to be, I guess, should I say, hand holding with
Yeah.
each student, right? I
Well,
mean, you think about the time and the report cards, the amount of personalization to send out 30 emails to 30 students in class.
right.
Like, it's just, I just don't know how they would be able to do that nowadays.
Well, we make it easier for the teacher, and our recommendation actually goes both ways. So we recommend to the student, but we also recommend to the teacher from a holistic classroom standpoint, and also for their individual students, books that they can recommend, or activities that strengthen the foundation of reading that they can recommend to the student as well. And so, we kind of make it. What we want to do is allow the teacher to be the facilitator, strengthen relationships, and really do the intervention that they're used to doing, in order to help the child. I think the gap that we're bridging is understand that when a teacher has a library, classroom set of books, one, it's limited. It's the only physical books that they have, right? They're not a library, meaning they walk into hundreds of books. So they have a basket full of books. 9 times out of 10, the teacher chose those books of what they thought that the students would like. So it's still skewed as far as interest. It's still based off that teacher's experience, whoever else in the district who decided these books are for. But that's still that person's view, as opposed to the student having access to a limited amount of unlimited amount of books at their reading level, and they're able to choose. The other thing is, let's even look at the interaction with the library. Um, Adults, if you go and you select a book and you read some of it and you lose interest, you put it down and you're allowed to choose and read something else. In school, that doesn't happen. A student is stuck with that book for that week or that month or whatever it is that they chose, and they may have lost interest in that book. The other thing is that there's the amount of pages vary. What we want is students to be more fluent, to read. This generation likes to read more snapshots of information instead of the large, big Harry Potter books as before. And so we have a large variety of lengths of book for students too, that they can still showcase their skills, they can still improve their reading fluency, they can still be engaged and grab the information that they want to, and then move on to the next topic or the next book, or those kind of things. We're just fitting and customizing everything towards this generation's needs, and at the same time increasing their readability level.
God, that brings up, something that when I'm working with my son Harry now, and he's 9, right?
Yeah,
And and now we go to ChatGPT, right? So he creates his learning plans on ChatGPT. I'll tell him what to prompt in, right? And then
right.
he'll copy the response, right? Like personal responsibility with technology. He'll copy the response, he'll paste it in a Google Doc, he'll print it off here at the library, and that becomes his reading assignment for the day, which is kind of like that snapshot. And then if he's so inclined, or maybe I have some sort of reward system, then he'll read one of the books, and we'll make a video out of it. Right. So it's like, I don't know, I'm just a dad, right? I don't really have this background, but what I'm trying to do is do, I think, something similar to what you already have in place, which is, I believe, a little bit more scientific, right? A little bit
Yeah,
more accurate in terms of reading level, because what I fear maybe sometimes is I give him too much and he might get discouraged,
right,
right? That
right.
might be above this reading level.
Yeah. The
Now,
the issue is access. You're a great dad. everything that you're providing for your son is what every child should get, and every child does not receive. Definitely not in a classroom because you have 20 or 30 students, and definitely not in other classrooms where the skill level of the adult or just the access to highly qualified teachers is something that's not there. And so how do we, so I had to think about how do we bridge a gap. My AI bot on our platform is called Ruby. That's my grandmother's name. And so you're acting as Ruby to your son. And
Yeah.
everyone deserves a Ruby. Everyone deserves someone to make sure that they're customizing and they're meeting the needs of that youngster, that reader, and getting them engaged and all those kind of things. And so one, I applaud you, but that's actually what we're trying to do for our end users, for our students, is bridge the gap and make sure it's personalized for every student to have access to high quality reading.
Well, gosh, how do you overcome that hurdle, right? When you have a teacher, let's say, who's been teaching for 20, 30 years, right? They're in their groove. Um, they know what works for them, right? And then you introduce a tool that kind of really helps them, right? But they might have this tremendous amount of fear, or maybe the school district has this amount of fear for the resistance they might face when adopting this new type of platform. What have you found to be successful in helping some of these teachers overcome that?
I can tell you, I laugh because I can tell you what I said as a superintendent. And I said, technology will not replace teachers, but those who use it will replace those who don't.
Yeah, amen, brother.
I mean, and then I followed that up with professional development. So I never challenge someone to do something and not give them the support to do it. I mean, we just have to, again, not educate kids for our past, educate kids for their future. This is a
Mhm.
global economy. Our children will no longer compete, and I say this all the time, is our children will no longer compete with their neighbor or the neighboring county. They will be competing with jobs with someone in a whole different country. And I don't know if traveled the world and seen the education system. These children at an early age are speaking 3 and 4 different languages, very proficient in English, and they don't have the resources that we have, but they're hungry. And so the small subset of students that are being educated the best and the brightest, and our students have to compete, and like I said, in a global society, in a global economy, global jobs, and so they have to be ready. And so we have to not be naive, and be the bottleneck for our students to be successful. And so yeah, that's kind of how I handle it. Technology will not replace teachers, but those who use it will replace those who don't.
Gosh, I mean, backdating the last 10, 15 years, I've helped train the trainers on how to use technology in the classroom. And that was like 15 years ago, a big deal was putting a video in a PowerPoint presentation, right? Like that was just
Right,
like, oh
right,
no,
right.
you're gonna play a video instead of me talk? Like,
Right.
let's talk about success, right? Success on your platform, right? Like the question now becomes is how do you measure that? How do you measure the success? Is it based on the amount of engagement? Is it based upon moving up a reading level? Are there any tests that somebody might have to take? I'm sure that that's number one from a school administrator standpoint is like, how do you measure this, right? Because ultimately, budgets are determined based upon how you measure success.
Yeah,
So,
we are a research based product. So we have had universities, just like even currently, University of Kansas City, UMKC, University of Missouri in Kansas City, is also doing a research study on our platform. And so we believe in strong scientific research. A lot of times, what we do is we base it on the tools that they currently use, the assessment tools that they currently use. And we start at the beginning where students are on our platform, and the same scientific studies where we have a control group and a group that's not using it. And we have a lot of comparative studies. We have shown significant gains in reading. We have shown significant gains not only in students' readability level, but the love of reading. And I think because we couple it with gamification, with a token economy, with a leaderboard, and all those, we hit every aspect. And then again, we're hitting on the interests of students and the strengths of students. And so, yeah, we're constantly, engaging students, and at the same time, we have strong research that backs and supports our product.
Well, one of the things I'd like to do is get a YouTube video that kind of walks somebody through step by step on what the user experience is like, either for a student or a teacher. But if you could please, just for the viewers watching right now, can you tell us what that experience is like when somebody goes to log in or sign in, and what the expectations of a student might be once they start either selecting their books? Um, so
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things because we measure and we assist in a couple of different areas. One is oral reading fluency. So the unique part of our platform is that every time a student picks up a book on our platform and read, they're reading orally, and we're doing a significant assessments and we develop smart insights in our AI, all those kind of things. But the difference is the game changer is that the only way that we assess reading right now with technology is we quietly have a child read a paragraph or a passage and answer multiple choice questions.
mm.
That's only reading comprehension. That is the end result of reading. That is the end result of successfully learning how to read is the comprehension part of it. So it doesn't address the basic reading, all the foundational skills in reading. The only way that you can do that is you hear the child read. And it's a successful act of that is running records, where a student sits down, our teacher sits down with the student. As a student is reading, they're marking the errors. Well, we're able to do that. And so, a student is picking up a book. They have thousands of books in the library. Either it's recommended by the teacher or the student is, like I said, we have recommendation system. Almost looks like Netflix, where at the top there's recommendations, or the student goes to the library and chooses a book to read. It has a countdown. They start to read orally to the book. If there's comprehension questions associated with it, the comprehension questions actually don't show up the first time if a student is not proficient, because
Mm.
if you're assessing comprehension, then you really are not if the student didn't understand what they read, was not able to successfully decode and read through the passage. Now
So
the
when they
second,
so when they so when they sit down, do they have, like, a headset on? Like, or are they
they
talking to the
can, just like
computer that
you, a headset
has
and a microphone in the
Yeah,
classroom. Uh-huh.
yeah.
In the
Okay.
classroom, if they're by themselves or whatever, they don't have to have it. Um, Eventually, as a student is reading, our technology gets so advanced. Not only does it understand the errors that a student is making, meaning our speech engine, um, we kind of outperform other speech engines because a lot of like your Google and Amazon, they don't develop speech engines for children because their
Mm.
voice changes. They have front teeth one minute, the next minute they don't have front teeth. So instead of frog, they're reading thog, or something like
I
that.
love that.
And so we actually grow with the maturation of the student, and the development stage that a student's mouth structure and speech is in. You'd be surprised students start reading and they just start singing, like just singing the words, or right. It's students do a lot of funny things as they're reading, but from a speech standpoint, that can throw it off. But we're able to adapt and adjust. The other thing is that we hear all the way down to the phonemic level. So we hear all the way down to the unit of speech. So when a child is reading, like if they read the word bat, we hear b at, or the lack thereof. And so we can actually give the teacher recommendations and the student based off their phonemic awareness or phonics, which is the building the foundation of reading. So again, the students are really reading through books. The page turns digitally. They get to the end, whether like I said the teacher assigned comprehension questions or not. The other aspect of our platform is that we have foundational skills, and so the students can get on there, and they're light game kind of structured, like drag and drop. Like let's say if it's a picture of a cat and it may have a blank C and it has AT, you have to choose from the letters to choose C. That's like every other platform. What makes us different is we take it a step further. We actually assess using orally. So the student will have to read that word or blend letters or segment. Or if it says, what sound does the letter A make? The student has to produce it orally. Where in other technology, they just drag a letter A on an apple and it tells them, yeah, you're correct. The A makes the A sound. Well, the student never practiced it, the student never produced it. So we assess at the highest level. We even take away picture cues and those kind of things to make sure that we get the truest, highest assessment of a student. The other thing that is kind of neat is that these students are gathering coins based off their performance, and those coins actually go towards. We have over 300 arcade style games that they can choose from. Any gender, any age group, the students love being rewarded with that. And those games only last 5 to 10 minutes because we want the student to live on a platform to read and play games and not live on a platform just to play games. And so,
Oh my gosh.
their coins run out. They try to game the system. They try to read like lower level books, but we have an algorithm in there that actually fixes that and catches them. Now, the last thing that I want to tell you just real quick is that we also recommend more advanced games and short videos for students. And what I mean by that is we actually recommend, uh, I say advanced, but let's say I always show this example because I love it. Is we have a Pac-Man game that is dynamic, so you can put in any content. But let's just say the student is struggling with ABC order. Well, the Pac-Man, they have to go and find and gobble up the letters in ABC order before the other Pac-Man gets them. The reason why that's complicated is not only in order to be successful, you have to know A, what's coming next, B, and at the same time is metacognition. You also have to develop a strategy to get around the other Pac-Man that's coming towards you and all those kind of things. And then once you get the next letter, then you still have to get away from that and still develop a strategy and still holding your head what letter comes next. So whatever skill that these games are assessing, first of all, the kids love them and they're fun. But the unique part of this is these games are only recommended to the student based off their errors. So once they master
Mhm.
across the platform, those games drop off and it's a new recommendation of games. And then also quick video vignettes. So whatever skill they're lacking, it may give a 30-second video, cartoon like video to explain it, the skill that they're lacking.
I love how you've added the games intentionally, right? Not just available, but intentionally based upon where that performance gap might be. Gosh, it was a when my son was given a laptop at 5 years old to take virtual kindergarten from Zoom, right? He had the entire internet at his disposal, and
Right.
I could play any game that he wanted, right? And they didn't nobody had any and there was no intentionality behind it. They were just kind of responding to making sure that the class was accessible. So I really appreciate the fact that you've been mindful about that approach and also put a limit to it too, right? Because that's all they'll do is play games if you let them,
Yeah. Oh,
right?
yeah. Definitely those whimsical games that are just fun. They don't necessarily have an academic intent to them. They definitely have a time limit. But actually, to be honest, the kids prefer playing the academic based recommended games because they're so cool. They're whimsical. They're almost like similar to those, but they have a academic content, and the students just by default of their own, they're learning at a higher level and showing mastery, and also conquering these games. They love it, man. They love it.
One of the things you mentioned before that made me laugh was when Harry first learned how to read and then also read with the digital books. This was about a year ago. It was Captain Underpants, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then so from the library, we checked out the audio recorder kit that you can get, and he was reading the books in a British accent, right? And I don't know why he chose like he had never done that before. So it was just kind of funny to me. And I'm wondering, like, okay, so if kids like to have fun in this, your platform must be able to account for those types of nuances, right?
Yeah, we are. You can choose to have the book read to you at the same time as reading the book. Same thing if like in our assessment like games that are like I was telling you about the CAT, the C is missing. It's a bunch of I mean it hits all different levels, but I'm just giving you one example of those. Um, the second time the student misses that answer, it flashes a hint or it may eliminate an option. And then the third time, if after the student misses it, it gives them the correct answer. And so, again, or the speaker button pops up, and then they can hear the sentence read that they didn't read right, or the word, or they didn't blend. And so we want to make sure that we hold a student accountable for learning, not
Mm,
kind of a I gotcha situation.
yeah.
We still feed all that information to the teacher. So the teacher understands that this is the third try that the student got it right, or the second try, or those kind of things. And our platform understands that too, to understand has a student mastered this skill or not, and uses our AI and those kind of things. But yeah, it's we account for a lot because we want to make sure, like I said, that a student is learning to read and it's not a I got you situation where a lot of times what we do with grades is we just record history. The student either passed or failed or got it right or wrong or A, B, C or 90%, and we do nothing else beyond that to remediate that gap of that student.
Yeah. No, that's really cool that you've thought of so much of it, and I can't wait to dig into it a little bit more. What would you say would be some advice you have for parents, right? Parents who are overwhelmed themselves, right? That have busy lives, that are trying to juggle many different responsibilities, and now they need to be a little bit more proactive in their children's education. What are some maybe tips or advice you can give them that would help set them up for success? You know, either short term and then also long term.
Yeah, I think feeding your child academic experiences, whether it's online, physically taking them somewhere, all of that layers of learning matters. That's how memories are stored. That's how you are able to retrieve information, and that's how learning take place. That and I know I'm not naive. I know that there are a new generation called the working poor, where people are working 18, 19 hours a week, a day, just to maintain poverty. And you know and therefore they're not at home all the time. They're trying to do the right thing, they're providing for their child, but this is a tough economy, and therefore they're not at home all the time. And so then there are, to me, I would say, structured activities that you would expect your child to do. And that's where technology comes in, because technology records the amount of engagement, the amount of time, the amount of progress, and those kind of things. Things like PlaBook, and our math app, where we use augmented reality and those kind of things, for a parent to be able to monitor that progress, and therefore, um, our kids are not, they don't like to be bound to time, meaning at 3 o'clock you need to do this work, or they would want to do it at 3:40 or 3:50. The whole point is, are
So
we
true.
able to see that child engage in these activities? Are they progressing and being successful in it? And you can hold your student accountable at a distance in that sense, as opposed to not necessarily always being there because of your busy schedule. But I would say you have to keep peppering them and keep challenging them with activities, even if they're getting them wrong now at a younger age. That information spirals, and then they're able to understand it and comprehend it later.
I love it. Absolutely love it. What would you say you're most excited about? The future of learning,
To
the
be honest,
future. Yeah,
it's,
or
it's
maybe or you can answer this two ways. What are you most excited about, or what are you most scared about?
I'm most excited about the mixture of AI and mixed reality. Um, a little bit past augmented reality and mixed reality, where you're able to still see in your environment. Apple has those real good glasses. You're still able to see in your environment, and transpose other objects. You're able to learn, and it kind of hits those different levels of layers of learning, modalities of learning. I'm just excited about that because it brings things to life. It really equals the playing field as far as exposure and trips, and the amount of activity that the haves and have nots, uh, the advantage of the haves have over the have nots, where they're isolated in one location. Um, I'm I'm not terrified of the use of artificial intelligence. I believe that we're going to get a hold of it. I believe that we're going to be ethical and do the right things with it. I am terrified with the amount of attention that is developed towards ed tech. And usually, even in education, everything that we have used have not been intentional, by an educator or a consultant, or educator that has that deep knowledge all the way around. And we have used tools that have been developed for other industries. So PowerPoint was developed for more so in the business realm. Zoom that definitely was not developed the way we end up using it inappropriately when COVID happened. I mean, that was the best tool that we had, but we floundered trying to hold classrooms in Zoom, and just the lack of intentionality of ed tech, the lack of resources and funding that VCs are given towards ed tech, when that is the kind of the most important thing that's going to close the gap, that's going to really enhance our society, is investing in educational technology tools that's going to enhance the learning environment for children.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a big reason why Build Buddy went belly up, was just we didn't have the funding to be able to continue it. I mean, with Build Buddy, we had the Minecraft as a learning platform, right? I don't know if you remember this a
Yeah.
couple of years ago. We had
Oh, yeah.
lesson plans that were created for kids of different grade levels. Um, and we created the online thing where we could go in and access learning modules and things, but yeah, there's a lot of effort that goes into this,
It
and if
is.
you're not intentional about it and you don't have the support, then it can definitely be a challenge.
Yeah, I mean, the procurement cycle of education, to where they will purchase something but pay you 5, 6, 7 months later. Uh, you know, I know government does that too, but education has that kind of bad, and the amount of changeover of leadership, and so therefore you don't have the consistency of using a tool, because the next person comes in and then they choose based off their interest and their feelings, or whatever it is, and so you don't have that consistency of really implementing something. Um, and I think the lack of I call it school intelligence. Um, Business intelligence is very high, and it's a real thing. I mean, you can walk in a store and they know exactly what you want before you want it, and what you're going to buy, and buying habits and patterns. They know the end user. They know what happens when you wake up every morning. I don't know. I mean, they can hear things on your phone and start to give you advertise and those kind of things, and personalize every experience. We don't do that in education. I mean, we need the minute second our
Mhm.
students get on a bus, walk into the classroom, walk into the building. We need to have things available and personalized for all of our end users or our students in order for them to be successful. We need to have that information to make decisions. Businesses have so much data that they use to drive their decision making, and we don't do that as a school district. We don't use the amount of data that we have, to make buying decisions, to make intervention decisions, to make decisions as far as staffing, and where a student should go, and what we should have and what we should offer. So those are the things that I think are very important in a school setting, that we're lacking, and that's that school intelligence. Is we have the research, and I say this in another podcast, is that the research says that a school district sits on more data than a Fortune 500 company. But the problem is that they don't use it appropriately. They just use it as history to record information. Like I said, this child is present, not present. This
Yeah,
child has got an A
exactly.
or B or C. This
Yeah,
child is a male or female. This child is this age or that age, or in this grade or that grade. That's it.
so
That's
many,
all.
so much opportunity. There's so much opportunity.
Yeah. And we're losing kids. Like I said, even our gifted population, they're just dropping out. They're just not interested. I mean, that's
Mhm.
really just the bottom line. They're just not engaged.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Phil, I'm so grateful that you took the time to be on this podcast today. You're a wealth of knowledge. You're creating solutions that are going to help people, not just here in the States, but also globally. Um, so thank you for being a part of this.
Thank you
And
for the opportunity. We at PlaBook really appreciate you. Especially our time we spent together when I met you. Alike spirits. You have kindred spirits, and so I know that you have the same mission of just impacting the world and doing great things, and that's what I see you doing. So again, thank you for allowing me to share space and time with you again, and allow me to talk about PlaBook.
yeah, very good. Well, take care, Phil. We'll be in touch soon.
Yes, sir. You take it
All
easy
right.
too.
Well, gang, this wraps it up here for another episode of the Learning Trends and Development. Make sure that you go to the Substack blog, because what we're going to do today is we're going to take the video recording, we're going to post it on there. We're going to take some notes that Dr. Phil has shared with us, and also some videos, follow up for the demonstration, and any extra tips that he is going to share. We're going to put it right on the Substack. So thank you all for participating. Make sure that you leave a comment here and any one of the platforms that we've live streamed across. And then hope to see you on the next one. I know that we've got a lot of topics coming up in the near future. So take care, everyone.